In this video, we're going to take a look at short-run production and diminishing returns. So in economics, we have a time period called the short run, which is a time period where there's at least one fixed factor of production. That's normally capital, machinery, plant and equipment, and so on. It could be land, but at least one factor input is fixed, whilst others can be varied. And those variable factors might include labour and intermediate inputs, such as components, raw materials and energy. Now, this is a concept. The short-run idea is central to understanding the relationship between inputs and outputs in the production process. So in the short run, most businesses are constrained in terms of their supply capacity because they do have fixed and variable inputs. Short run, at least one factor of production is fixed, whereas in the long run, all factors of production are variable, all factors of production can be changed. Indeed, a business can change the capacity of supply and hopefully potentially benefit from internal economies of scale. Now, in the short run, we come across the idea of the law of diminishing returns. This states that as more units of a variable input are added to a fixed input, beyond a certain point, the marginal product of the variable input will begin to diminish or decrease. What that means, in other words, is that the extra output produced by each additional unit of labour, for example, will start to decrease, ceteris paribus, with all other factors remaining constant. So here's a little simple numerical example of the law of diminishing returns. Let's consider a hypothetical farm cultivating wheat. This is the sort of daily output of wheat, and we're adding more labour to the production process. The farm has a fixed input of land and capital, and the output shown in the table is the total output of wheat in bushels as the farm adds more labour. Now, initially, output goes up at an increasing rate. So the first labour unit added produces 10 units. The second labour unit added takes the output up to 25. So that's a marginal product of 15. Likewise, the third unit adds 15 to production. But adding the fourth person or fourth labour input only increases output by 10 bushels. And you can see the fifth adds 5, the sixth adds only 2. So this falling marginal product signifies diminishing returns. And here's another example, simple example. You often get these in multiple choice questions. Workers employed, total output. We can work out the marginal product. The first worker adds 8, the second worker adds 12, the third worker 16, and so on and so forth. But the fourth worker is where diminishing returns kick in. The average product is output divided by number of workers employed. And you can see that when the marginal worker adds 12, it equals the average. But for the fifth and the sixth worker, the marginal product falls below 12, 7 and 5 respectively. And a falling marginal product drives down the average across all workers employed. So the second and third workers are adding to marginal product going up. We say that's rising returns, whereas beyond the fourth worker, diminishing returns set in. And that means the marginal product of labour starts to fall. Now, the concept of diminishing returns is super important if you want to understand marginal cost of supply. Now, marginal cost is the extra cost for a firm or producer when they increase their output by 1 unit. You see, as diminishing returns set in, the marginal cost of supply will increase. Falling marginal product leads to increasing marginal cost. And that's because to produce, to supply more output, the producer needs to add more of the variable input, which becomes less productive as more of it is added. So there we go, a quick look at the theory of short-run production and diminishing returns.